It's not just Intel that was pushing the development and the growth of this city. You've got Google and Facebook out on that northeastern corridor. You've got other companies that are coming in to support these huge brands. So Columbus is going to continue to grow. Maybe not the incredible growth that we expect the next 5 years, but the city is already planning and already making improvements to roads to plan for that growth.
Welcome back. It is the first week of March of 2025, and there was just some very recent news on Friday, I'm pretty sure, of last week, so late February. That's something that's probably going to hit the entire market of Columbus pretty hard, pretty significantly. To what degree and how, we shall see. But we just found out that Intel is delaying their project. What is it, Mark? Like 3, 4, or 5 years?
5 years, big news.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be about over $20 billion going into the Central Ohio economy, and it was supposed to be done, I think, within the next year or two. But now it's looking at not being done until about 2030 or 2031. So that's probably going to affect a lot of the Columbus economy in a pretty big way. So, but Mark, as a realtor and a real estate professional, what was your reaction when you saw this news?
I was surprised, but was I completely surprised? No, not really. Often you'll have these big construction projects being delayed. And this is I think people underestimate the size of this project that's going on out there. If you drive out there are like 20 cranes out there building these chip plants. And Intel's already spent over $4 billion building them. So this is a big project. So oftentimes these commercial projects get delayed, but delayed 5 years is a little surprising. I mean, they had originally started or slated to start in 2025. Now they're pushing that back to 2030. What are the chances that it could get pushed back even further than that?
Yeah, I know with a lot of big projects, with both in the private and public sector, but there's a lot of public sector, I think, involved in this case. It's pretty common for things to get delayed. Uh,
Yeah.
5 years is a lot, so
Cost overruns and being delayed. That's pretty common in construction projects.
yeah. So I mean, I had a feeling that it would come. I didn't think it'd be a 5 year delay, but we'll see. We'll also see if it's going to go over budget. That'll be the other interesting thing to see. Uh, but when this was first announced around 2022, what kind of changes did you see in the real estate market around that time?
Well, so when this was announced, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people came from out of nowhere, quite frankly. But immediately there were people out in that Licking County area, right around New Albany, Johnstown, speculating on land. I mean, the value of land out there went up dramatically, almost overnight. I mean, an acre of agricultural land in Ohio, in the central Ohio area, is right around $5,000 to $10,000. Well, it went up 10 times out in that area, 10 to 15 times, almost immediately. So a lot of people were out there land speculating, trying to put properties together into bigger packages so they could sell them off to developers. We had a situation in our brokerage where somebody who bought it like a 20-acre plot with a small house on it, in 2019, 2018, I can't really remember when, but somewhere in that time frame, 20 acres, and it was I think it was like a $350,000 purchase. Turned around and sold it right after this land grab started for about $5 million. So
Wow.
quite a significant appreciation there.
And well, so that means that also means that somebody bought it for for that much money. And
Right,
I
right.
wonder how that person is. I wonder what they're thinking right now. And the other people like that have spent a lot of money
I
uh,
wish it would have been me.
that sold it
Yeah,
or
right.
bought it.
That bought it and resold it for sure.
Yep, no kidding. So now that this has happened, what will happen? That's kind of to be determined. But based on your experience and things that maybe have happened that are somewhat analogous to this, what impact do you think you might see over the next 1 to 2 years? Because a lot of us, I mean, I think a lot of us and our viewers were concerned about how's this going to affect me now. So what do you think might happen over the next year or two in that market, in the surrounding market?
Well, so I've been talking for the last couple of years to homeowners who have literally been waiting to sell their homes until the whole Intel project took off, hoping to kind of capitalize on the market as it increased. Well, now that that's been delayed, it'll be interesting to see if those homeowners decide to stay put or if they just decide to sell now. With regards to what's going on there now, the people that have been speculating, and it's kind of the definition of speculating. Sometimes things go up, sometimes things go down. So I wouldn't be surprised in the short term to see some of those land values decrease. But I think over the long run, I mean, that this project is still going to happen, even though it's been delayed. And and until obviously having some financial difficulties, they laid off a lot of people in 2024. Their stock has taken a big hit, but they've already invested so much in this project. The state of Ohio has already invested so much in this project that the project's going to happen. It'll be interesting now to see what the developers, the builders are doing now with this delay. It actually might be good for them or good for the consumer, the buyers out there, because it's going to allow them to catch up maybe a little bit to get ahead of this impending buyers coming to Columbus, Ohio, people relocating to Columbus, Ohio. So, this could turn out to be a positive thing from a home buying standpoint.
It means for the people on the buying side of the equation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. More inventory equals more opportunity.
Yeah, because I've been reading some articles in Columbus Business First, and I think I have been reading a lot. A lot of developers are trying to make more homes around the entire Columbus, Ohio area, right?
Right, right. So in the past 10 years, 12 years, builders just haven't been building as many properties after the great recession in 2028. And there's been a lag. We have under inventory, not just in Columbus, but all of the United States. Now that is changing as builders are catching up, but they were expecting so much growth here in Central Ohio. They were anticipating 20,000 housing units needed a year, which is a huge amount of housing units, more than we can potentially even build. So again, I think it's good that it'll give the developers and the builders potentially the opportunity to catch up a little bit.
I see. And then, so if I'm a seller in that area, uh, do you think it's just maybe a matter of having some patience, maybe wait a year or two? Because again, that stuff's still going to happen, right? So it might just be a matter of hold on to it a little bit longer because you still have a valuable property if you get property in that area, right?
Right, right. Well, it really depends on the seller. I mean, if you're kind of kicking the can down the road 5 to 6 years, maybe that works for people, but maybe your plans, you know, you need to get something done a little bit quicker than the next 5 or 6 years. So, and it just kind of depends on the situation. But I think in the short term, if you were planning on selling and really capitalizing on Intel, if you live out in that immediate area, your plan, you have to readjust your plans.
I see. There was this one article in Spectrum News that I read. I think it might have been a little bit extreme, but the person being interviewed in that article, he was saying that land values in that area could drop as much as 50% from the peak. That sounds like a lot. Would you agree with that
I don't know
projection?
about 50%. I mean, you're correct. That's pretty significant. The problem is if you were again speculating on this land, now you're sitting on the land and paying taxes on it, and obviously the value of money comes into play, the time value of money. So I think in terms of what's going to occur out there, the growth that's going to occur out there, it's still going to happen. It just might be delayed a little bit.
I see. So speaking on that time value of money bit, so as a real estate investor and somebody that works with other real estate investors, do you think this might affect your or other real estate investor strategies going forward over the next year or two?
No, I think it definitely will. Again, and I'll just use that example that I just brought up about the person who sold for $5 million. If you were the buyer there and buying that land for $5 million, you're either financing it, you're paying cash for it. When you get into land, it's hard to finance land. So let's say it's $5 million in cash, and you are hoping to then sell it off maybe to another developer or develop it yourself. Now you potentially sitting on that for a number of years, and again, it's a lot of money to have tied up and we're just talking about a small parcel of land. There are some very, very large parcels of land out there that are 20, 30, 40 million dollars. So it's just an awful lot of capital to be tied up in one piece for one project for an investor.
I see. So speaking of parcels of land and capital, do you think this is going to affect some of the housing developments that were planned around that area, or do you think those are going to get built regardless? Or
No, I think they're going to continue to be built. Again, I think ultimately that area is going to continue to grow. So anybody who has bought land out there who is developing, the builders that are developing out there, I think they're going to continue. It's just going to maybe slow things down, and they can slow down their growth as well. I mean, they don't necessarily have to build 30 or 40 houses a month if they don't have to. That's an extreme. So you can go from building 10 houses a month to building 5 houses a month or 2 houses a month. Is it ideal for them? No. They try to get in and out of projects as quickly as possible. But again, I don't think it's going to affect them that much.
on the buyer bit, do you think there might be some areas that will become better opportunities because of this news over the next year or two?
I think there's going to be more opportunity. If builders are building and there's more inventory out of the market and less people who are buying them, it's going to be just more opportunity for buyers who are just currently in the market. So what might happen with pricing? Pricing I think might level off and not continue to rise as quickly as it has been the last couple of years. But I think that now that we're in March of 2025, we're kind of really just starting our spring market. I think the next 30 to 45 days will kind of determine what kind of 2025 we're going to have, at least in the first half.
Yeah, and then speaking of that, we do know that Intel is not the only news that's going to be having an effect on the Columbus, Ohio real estate market. Do you think there might be some other factors we'll want to watch out for this year?
Definitely. There are some other factors that are happening nationally. A lot of other markets especially in states like Texas, states like Florida, the Southwest are really struggling right now. I mean, there are cities in Texas that are down 10%. Those are typically the markets that rise very, very quickly during good times and fall very, very quickly when things start to change. So in Columbus, we're usually about 6 months behind some of these cities. So it's going to be important to watch what else is occurring out nationally. Obviously, real estate's all local, and you have to kind of focus on your micro market. But keep an eye on what's going on in some of these other larger cities, because eventually it will trickle down to Columbus.
Yeah, so speaking of other cities and Columbus, I think one of these articles it mentioned about 10,000 new people moving to Columbus per year. Do you think we're probably going to see that same trend, as in a lot of people moving into Columbus regardless of this Intel news?
Yeah, I think that Columbus is still going to continue to grow. It's not just Intel that was pushing the development and the growth of this city. You've got Google and Facebook out on that northeastern corridor. You've got other companies that are coming in to support these huge brands. So Columbus is going to continue to grow. Maybe not the incredible growth that we expect in the next 5 years, but the city is already planning and already making improvements to roads to plan for that growth.
Yeah, so it seems to me that from what I'm looking at, the Columbus, Ohio real estate market is still looking pretty optimistic and like a good opportunity for both buyers and sellers, just because there are so many other factors happening right now. Like you said, some of the policy changes that we've been talking about within the city of Columbus, like some of the zoning changes to build more housing. And then still, even besides Intel, there are other projects happening, like the Andrill facility they're building out in the over by one of the airports, right?
Mm-hmm. And that they're still in the very early developmental stage of that project, but that's just a good example of the companies that are coming into town. So I see our market as still being very, very stable. We are very, very fortunate to have some things going for us in Columbus that a lot of cities, even other Ohio cities, don't have. We've got the university, who is the largest employer here in Central Ohio. We're the state capital, which is a huge employer. Just those two economic engines really keep our market stable. And then you've got the other companies, other private companies here in town. A lot of people don't realize that we are home to 15 Fortune 500 headquarters. So we've got a lot of diversity of industry here in Columbus, which really has kept our market stable for the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Now, I would say now that I'm considering all this news, like you mentioned, it might be good for buyers and people who want to get in because I mean the market had been moving so quickly with so much activity happening. I think this will probably give some people some time to get their ducks
We
in a
are
row.
having a little bit of that this spring. I mean, the transactions I've been involved in here the last 60 days, we're still seeing multiple offers in certain price points. Things are still selling very quickly. The homes and properties that are in good areas and good conditions and priced right are still selling. So what I like to tell our buyers is that if it's appealing to you, it's probably appealing to someone else.
Yeah, I see. So considering all that, so we've got again a lot of stability, and the Intel project is still happening, just on a little bit slower of a timeline. Would you say you have any closing advice for buyers and sellers considering some of this recent news and recent activity in the market?
So there's still a lot of demand and um, a lot of buyers currently in the market, especially at certain price points. Before you go out searching, really get your ducks lined up in terms of your financing. Really think that through. How am I going to finance this house? Maybe you're selling a home and buying a new one, or maybe you're coming out of an apartment. And my best advice to any buyer is to, rather than going to a lender or your bank and saying, what can I get pre-approved for? Work those numbers backwards. Figure out a comfortable budget for yourself, and then based on those numbers, take into consideration taxes and insurance. So property taxes in Columbus are pretty high. I usually tell my buyers to budget about $100 a month for insurance, and then the rest of that would be the principal and the interest part of that payment. What is that comfort, or where is that number at, and then use that number and figure it out and work that backwards with where the rates are. Okay, what price point should I really be looking at?
Okay, and then what about for sellers?
Sellers, I would continue to watch the market. Like I said, the market is slowing a little bit. You want to be priced correctly. The past 18 months, sellers were kind of a little bit out of hand on where they thought the values of their homes were. That has pulled back a little bit. There is still quite a bit of appreciation here in Columbus, but we're not seeing buyers just buy anything. The past 18 months, it was that you put a house on the market, and no matter what it looked like, people were going to buy it. That has changed. Buyers are getting a little bit more picky. So really try to figure out where the market value is for your home and price it correctly.
All right, so that wraps up this video. It seems overall we've got pretty long-term good news for Columbus because even despite the uh, Intel news, one is still going to happen. And two, we've got so many other positive factors in favor of the Columbus, Ohio real estate market. But if I'm a buyer or I'm a seller and I'm confused about where to go or what to do, what would you recommend or what should I do?
Please reach out. I'm here to help any way I can. You can call me at 614-596-2934 or reach out via email.
And what's that email address?
It's first initial last name. So it's MVANSTEYN at Premier, PREMIER hyphen choice, CHOICE.com.
All right, great. Thanks, Mark.
Have a good day.